Hey, it's Mazzy, and welcome back. I think it's time to talk about some new music. After Record Store Day and my whack-a-moles and my It's the Music Stupid videos, it's time to talk about brand new records. All these records came out within the last month or so, and I want to showcase these 7 records because I am enjoying new music. I always am open to new things, new artists. Now, these aren't particularly new artists for the most part. In fact, none of these are. One you may know lesser than others, depending on who you are. I mean, some of them, there's people out there that know everything. I'm not one of them. I know what I know. That's all that I know, and I'm open and I have a thirst for new music and new records. So, this first album is an amazing album. This is going to definitely, unless something changes, make my top of the year. This is Adrien Lenker. This is her fifth or sixth album called Bright Future. Now, I got turned on to her indirectly by 3 separate people. First, the Archivist, my friend the Archivist, turned me on to the last album by Big Thief, and she's a member of Big Thief. And she does interspurts her solo records over the last few years. This apparently is her fifth, I believe, solo album. I may be wrong about that, but you know more than I do about Adrien Lenker. But Big Thief was one of my favorite albums of that year, and the Archivist kept playing it, and I finally latched onto it. It's an indie, lo-fi fusion of country and folk, and some experimental, little avant things going on that record, and I just love it. It's a grower of an album. Now, this is an album that also was turned on to me by my friends Todd and Chris. They have channels Lost Mixtapes and The Long Cut, so seek them out. And this is right in my wheelhouse. This is a lo-fi country folksy album. Wonderful record. The first track, this is one of those records that sounds like it was recorded literally adjacent in your living room and really next to you, and maybe it was in a home recording, but it was recorded to tape. It starts out lo-fi, you hear it kind of like hit the microphone, set the microphones, a little chat, brief chat, and it goes into the solo piece. The rest of it is this mix of violin and guitar and drums and bass, and it's such a beautiful record, very intimate, wonderful lyrics. Check it out, read the lyrics yourself, but I don't really know much about her, although I did read something that went up till 4 or 5 years old. She was she was brought up on this Christian cult camp or something, which sets a tone, but she studied music. She does amazing work. She's got this beautiful voice. She reminds me, there's an artist that I really like that was a great artist going back to the late 80s into the 90s and the 2000s, a folk punk rock skateboarder by the name of Michelle Schacht, who eventually imploded literally on stage about 15 or so years ago. I mean, a crazy story. But her first few records are just wonderful, folky, country, rootsy records. Some are more produced than others. They're on Mercury Records, so seek out Michelle Schacht. I friggin' love her. This doesn't sound like her, but I can see elements of those records on her. This is on 4AD. They also put out the Big Thief album, and I think the last 3 of her albums. I need to seek those albums out now because this is such an amazing record. But it is a low-key record. It might not grab you right away, but the songs have hooks in their own way. I think they're fantastic. It's a little bit of a Gillian Welch vibe as well. I think Gillian Welch records, I would say, are more produced, and it's sort of weird when you portray her records, Gillian's records, of being produced, because they're just wonderful acoustic gems, her and Dave Rawlings records. But this is a winner, definitely. And thank you, Todd, Chris, and Amanda, for leading me into her work. Next is an artist that I've been a fan of, going back to Hard Rain, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Thunder Review, And Arista Records, the 2 albums, I believe 2, maybe 3 albums, the Alpha Band put out on in the mid to late 70s, and that's T-Bone Burnett. Of course, most people know him as a producer because of Old Brother, Where Art Thou? A lot of big rootsy things. He was married for years to Sam Phillips, the woman singer, not the Sun Records producer, and they both come sort of from a Christian background initially. It's interesting, we're like the theme going on here about that. But he's one of my favorite producers. I love his rootsy sound. I love his use of various acoustic instruments. He did the amazing soundtrack for that Beatle film, Across the Universe, with those Beatle covers. Now, doing Beatles covers is not easy to get it right, to do it different. And he just did those wonderful arrangements for that Julie Taymor film. Whatever you think of the film, which I actually like, the soundtrack is killer, and reworking of Beatle films. Now, what's great about this, it's the first album he's done in a while where he's back to normal music. He did some experimental off-kilter pieces, and he's worked with some of the greatest artists, from Los Lobos to Bob Dylan to Elvis Costello. This is a gorgeous record. This is the acoustic folk record, a very rootsy record. It starts very, I don't want to say lo-fi, because compared to Adrien Lenker, it's not lo-fi at all, but it's just a beautiful analog feel of a recording with these acoustic guitars. But then there's more of a band and a little more upbeat, but again, it's not an upbeat record. This is a stunningly beautiful acoustic-based record. There's a little electric in here, but it's mostly acoustic bass all over. Great songwriting, an intimate record for T-Bone Burnett, and it's great to hear him, the other side, come back and do a normal record. I liked all his solo records. He had records, I guess in the 80s maybe, originally on Warner Brothers Records and other labels over the years. I've seen him perform twice on his own, also with the Rolling Thunder Revue with Dylan. Never saw the Alpha Band, unfortunately, but those 2 albums are really kind of cool with David Mansfield. This is a really good new record. Next is a band. I have their first 2 albums, then I kind of skipped a while because they get samey. This is one of the records that probably doesn't fit with everything else. And this is the latest album called Daniel by Real Estate. I believe they're originally from New Jersey, relocated to New York City. Kind of looks like, actually, it looks like the real estate agents you see on the signs on the supermarket push cards right there. They actually look like, or they look like this guy, I think, was an HR for, well, anyway, I jest. Okay. This has amazing hooks. This is really a well-recorded pop. I want to say power pop, but it's not power pop, but it's almost like easy folk country rock, but it's not country. I'm trying to think. I'm not putting the word, I'm not succinct in the description of this. Look at my Instagram. I think I was more succinct when I wrote it out. Follow me at Mazzy's Music on Instagram, by the way. But every song on here is a hook. Every song on here is wonderful harmonies, wonderful playing. It is soft rock. It's a bit like soft rock, but the best of soft rock. I love this record. The strangest thing is, the next record, I played this right after the next record. Basically, I'm giving you a little teaser here. Spoiler, the next record is the new album by Kim Gordon, formerly from Sonic Youth. After you play a Kim Gordon record and you put this album on, it's like total worlds collide. So different. So, DJs, and when you put a theme, you put together a playlist. This would be a weird ass playlist, but I just thought this is a really great album. Now, light rock, pop rock, soft rock, great hooks, great harmonies, great playing, acoustic guitars. It's a great album. Real Estate, newest album called Daniel. Everybody wants to see what these things look like. There is a little poster here. Here's their real estate listing. You can look on Zillow for them, possible. I wonder if you can buy this record on Zillow. Too soon. But, everybody wants to see, there's a gray, you know, you paint your house gray or beige before you sell it, and it sells, apparently. But I really like this record, but it's not for everybody. You have to be in that soft rock mood. I mean, if you like Poco, and it's not soft rock like Little River Band. It's not like kind of twee, but it's just really good. Next, the aforementioned Kim Gordon, of course, formerly bass player from Sonic Youth, a noise rock band going back to the 80s. Saw them a few times, including that tour for Neil Young when half the audience walked out during their set. This is her second solo album. I loved her first solo album, and I saw them on the tour after that. I guess, was it after the pandemic? She's great. She is one of those performers, though, that has no personality, and she gets up there and she plays, and it's just her personality. She has this vibe like she's bored. Like, she looks and acts and sings like Nico sings, where it's kind of that monotone boredom. But I still love the hell out of her. This record, Kim Gordon's The Collective, their second album, this is on Matador Records. I believe the last one it was as well. I really like this record. There's a lot of electronic loops, a lot of programmed synthesizers, programmed drums. There's some heavy bass that goes down and some loops. So you got a little bit of a German electronic vibe. I've heard some say it's a little hip hop. I don't really see any hip hop on here at all, but it's an electronic, noisy record. There's some of the stuff like, I would say, some of the experimental later stuff of Yoko Ono, not vocalized wise, but a lot of people don't know the later stuff after the commercial, semi-commercial 80s period. And it's just really cool loops. Now, a lot of the songs were co-written with Justin Raisin, who produced this record. So he's all over it, playing some of the drum programming, synthesizer programming. Kim Gordon's all the vocals on here. There's sound design and drums and Foley stuff. So there's sound effects occasionally on here and loops and things. And of course, we're talking about this whole, cell phone world we're in now, where all we can do is be addicted to this cell phone. In this case, it's just a beautiful black vinyl, wonderful. But I think this is a cool album. This is a record that I turned up really loud, and it kind of shakes the house at times. But it's an excellent record if you like that kind of just that thick bass, the synthesizer loop thing going on, and her monotone voice. Basically, she sounds like she doesn't give a shit if she's there singing for you or not, but it works. Some of the lyrics seem freeform, seem like beat poetry, like she just rattled it off. I'm sure she wrote it down, obviously, wrote these lyrics, I assume, but it just seems off the cuff and not as, thoughtful. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's just a fact of Kim Gordon, her new album. Another album that I've been anticipating, and I'm a big fan of St. Vincent, Annie Clark. This is her latest album on Total Pleasure Records, distributed by Virgin Records. She's on fire and she's pissing her fire. I don't know what that really is about. Come on. I mean, have you noticed, except for the Kim Gordon and the Real Estate, a lot of dark and black related album covers, and the next two are just the same. In fact, this is very reminiscent to the last one in terms of design wise, of just his photograph. Now, she's on fire here. This is a really good record. Now, I've heard some people mention they like this because it's more guitar based. I don't see it as guitar based. There are more guitars, but they're not used in like jammy solos. It's not that type of guitar bass. I still think there's some electronics in here, definitely some things she does in the studio effects, but the songs are really good, and there is a certain intensity and beauty to the material here. Now, I like the last album, Daddy's Home. I think I like that one better. I've heard people say that completely the opposite, and that's the way the world goes. Because the last record, she was very influenced by all these sort of singer-songwriter and produced records from the early 70s. It's got that vibe. Daddy's Home, to me, is a perfect record. This is still growing on me. I'm not quite sure yet. I do like it a lot, but there's there is a vibe to this that is totally different than that other album. The first track on side 2 really stands out, and it's called Violent Times. And it stands out because you could swear when you listen to that song that it was a James Bond song. It's got the vibe, the tunes, the melody right out of a James Bond theme song. And she would be a perfect candidate for a James Bond theme song next time, maybe. By the time they do a James Bond, this will be long, old, but she could be a good candidate. She did that pretty well on there. This particular one is, again, black. Pressings are fine here. I don't always get into share what that's about. I've had no issues with any of these records, but this is the new St. Vincent record, and it's called All Born Screaming. Just came out in the last few days, and I played it about 4 times so far, and it's a grower. Next is the new album called Dark Matter by Pearl Jam. See, we're going all these dark cover themes at all. Now, I will say right up front that I haven't been an all-in Pearl Jam follower or fan. I have the first 2 albums on CD, and then I kind of didn't keep up with them. I saw them once at a club early on, the I-Beam on Haight Street. I think it was late 81 or 82, around that time. I'd have to look it up. But and they were great. They're a great live band. I mean, you can't deny they're a great tight band. Now, the thing is, I feel obligation towards Pearl Jam, and maybe this is kind of a bullshit thing, but living in Seattle for 10 years, Pearl Jam is essentially the biggest sports team in Seattle. It's bigger than the Mariners, maybe not as big as the Seahawks, but definitely they're the home team, and they're like the pride of Seattle. And they're like, in a way, I know they're not last man standing. Mudhoney's still around, but with all the grunge bands that came out of that era, that imploded, and unfortunately a lot of lives lost, unfortunately, they're like pretty much intact with a few, changes over the years. And I don't know all those details. Now, I've listened to this album about 4 times now. It's one of those albums I'm trying to drive and get into it and think and really get into the melodies, getting into just the production and everything. I want to say I enjoy the record. I don't love the record yet. Now, I did listen to some of the interviews and the performances that are on YouTube right now on the Howard Stern show. And to me, the problem with this album is the production or the mastering. Andrew Watt, who's my son's age, 32, 33 or so, produced this. And he's, the hot producer du jour. And I'm not a producer, and it's easy for me to second guess a producer. But he produced Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber. He produced the last Rolling Stones record, which I like that record musically, but I thought it was compressed to hell. This record is compressed to hell. The dynamics have been sucked out. I don't know if there were dynamics, but I want to hear Jeff Amet's bass better. I want to hear the guitars better. There's a thickness to it, and maybe that's obviously their choice because the band listens to these test pressings. If you want to do that for streaming, if you want to do that for a CD, if you want to do that for any other version, but cut it and maybe remix it for vinyl. I don't know. Again, it's so subjective, this stuff, but I was so disappointed. I want this record to sound better. It's not that it's a bad sounding record. It's just like a wall of recordings until they get to Setting Sun with acoustic guitars, maybe more acoustic guitars. Again, I hesitate to say this because I'm not a producer. I'm a fan. I'm a music fan. So coming from a fan's point of view, but I'm not, again, as I said, I'm not an all-in Pearl Jam fan. So Pearl Jam fans will have to make a decision. Now, I did get their last album, Gigaton. I like that record better right off the bat. I think it sounds better. I think the song Running is the song with the biggest hook that I gravitated to right away. But the rest of it just I'm not sure yet. And again, I think that Andrew Watt, this whole thing about compressing, it's kind of like the loudness wars. Now, I want to show this booklet because the next record, this becomes a big part of the next record, the last record I show. This is a beautiful book. I love how they pick an artist photographer. In Gigaton, they picked one too. This time they picked this photographer that does these effects. And then there are these wonderful uh, photographs that apparently Jeff Amet took in the studio during the recording sessions. Really well done, really well designed. You have all the credits here. You have, I believe you have, yeah, you have all the lyrics here as well. What a concept. Put a book in. What a concept. Put the credits in. This is a major release. Pearl Jam did a great job. This is a beautiful package. I love this package. Again, I'm not sure on the record yet, so I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. And I bought this at a local in Seattle, so I feel my work is done for the moment. We'll see what happens. Okay, lastly, I'm going to show the new Beyonce record, her quote country record. Right now, where we are in April, the end of April, this is my favorite record of the year. This is a 2-record set. The records are flat. They sound great. I love the sound, the dynamics, the vocal. The vocals are up front. The music is there. Great acoustic guitars, whether they're all real acoustic or manipulated, they sound fucking awesome on here. This is a good record. I wouldn't call it all of a country record. Now, she does a version, which I'm sure you've heard of, Blackbird, of the Beatles song from the White Album. They use McCartney's guitar. I mean, with permission, they use it, and it's very faithful to that version on the Beatles' White Album. But it has these beautiful vocal harmonies in it. And I think a lot of people who were down on that, who are not fans of Beyonce, especially some of these over fanatic Beatle fans, that, oh, how can they take that from it's never as good as the Beatles. I think out of context, it doesn't work as well as within the rest of the songs on this music. Beautiful harmonies, beautiful songs. You got this intro of Dolly Parton. She does a version of Jolene. That's the only other cover, I think. Although she does do a little refrain from a Patsy Cline. I think it was I Fall to Pieces, as I recall. I could be wrong about that. But her version of Jolene is friggin' amazing. Everything else is original. There is some hip hop mixed into the end. There's some country things, beautiful harmonies, a lot of artists in here, a couple little almost like a country DJ introduction there. This is a beautiful record. This is a well-recorded record. This is a fantastic record. I love this. This is my #1 record. I already said that. Now, you want to know what the rub is? The rub, my rant? This. There are no credits. There are no song listings. Now, one thing I know, vinyl people, I have a black vinyl, normal cover, no poly sleeves. Okay, I can forgive that because my pressings were good, silent. Again, really good dynamics, really good sounding, but no credits. All right, you have to do that on your phone, and you can see all the millions of people who worked on this record. Now, I don't care if you work with 20, 30, 50 producers and musicians and programmers and, all the wardrobe model photographers that do this, these wonderful portraits and wonderful, packaging. I want to read it. The whole idea, the whole concept of vinyl is we sit and we look and we read it. Now, I don't want to read this shit on my phone. How lazy is that? Now, I posted this again on my Instagram, Mazzy's Music, and the response I got was somewhat with agreement. Like, what's the point of having vinyl if you don't look who the photographer was, you don't look who the producer was, who wrote these songs, where's the publishing information? You don't even have the songs on the labels there. You don't know where it is unless you go to that friggin' code on your phone. Now, someone said, well, they change it from the CD and the digital version the last minute. And first of all, it takes a while to press records. You have to get it ready, prep it. You have to master it. You have to cut it. You have to get pressing plants. So it's going to take you a few months. By that point, you can design and put a booklet like that Pearl Jam record. That Pearl Jam booklet was fantastic. Her last album had a booklet inside. That's fantastic. I think it was a Lemonade. I love that record. That was one of my favorite records of, was it 4 or 5 years ago? Great record. Had a booklet in it. This thing about last minute is no excuse. When you have the budget that Beyonce has and Jay-Z has and whoever worked on this record, you can make it happen. That's what record companies do. You can make this happen. I think that is lazy ass shit to not put the credits on the friggin' record. Now, if there, sometimes you could say, here's what we have up till now, subject to change, and then you put your code and you can go look for more and updated information and everything, copyright. As a photo agent, I want to know who took this friggin' picture. I want to know, I want to know the makeup artist, who did the hair, who did the wardrobe. Not much wardrobe, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm ranting about this, I get it, but musically, I know it's the music stupid, and I always say that. This is a fantastic album. I just love this record. This was a good batch. I mean, look at all these dark covers. Look at this. Oh, it's pink. Okay. Anyway, 7 new records, all worth checking out for different tastes for different people. So thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you. See you next time. Or maybe I should just put like a code there so you can post comments on a code.